The content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. Yep. Content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. Yep. And mute that and go back here. All right. We are live right now. Hey, anybody that's out there in YouTube, want to welcome you. Hopefully you're just catching this while you're driving. Maybe you're killing some time. If you happen to be in the e-learning business, if you happen to be an author, a coach, a thought leader, a company that's looking for really outstanding world-class instructional design and development, you may want to stay tuned and watch this quick interview. My name is Robert Lunte. I'm the CEO, founder of a marketing company that focuses on e-learning solutions at CourseCREEK. And today, we're going to do a quick interview with our director of instructional design, Matthew Tang. Matthew and I have been working together in this space for about 3 or 4 years. It's been quite some time. Matt has been doing this for about over 12 years, as I know.
Oh,
Longer than that, Matt. Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Matt, I give to you Matt Tang, our director of instructional design. And we're going to talk about AI, by the way, artificial intelligence and new innovations in the world of instructional design. Matt.
Yes.
Thanks for your valuable time this morning. Can you just lay out your bio? Let people know a little bit about who you are, what's your cred, how long you've been doing this, what makes you special?
Sure. So it's a little bit longer than 12 years. I'm a little bit older than that, I'm afraid. It's been closer to 20 years at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm getting up there, almost as old as Robert.
Thanks.
But no, so instructional design, like I never, like when I was coming up through school and through my formal education, I never thought I would be an instructional designer. Like I didn't grow up wanting to build e-learning courses. It kind of evolved into just something I loved, but I didn't realize it at the time. So I actually always really interested in technology, right? And I went to school, to university, to study computer science. So that was kind of what I was really interested in. But when I got there, and after spending 4 years doing that, I realized, I didn't want to sit in a cube all day writing code. That didn't appeal to me. But I still loved technology, and I loved what it could do, and I saw the potential. But after college, what I ended up doing is I joined AmeriCorps, which is basically, like, if you're not familiar with it, the domestic Peace Corps. At the time, it was under the same umbrella of the Freedom Corps, where Peace Corps goes international, AmeriCorps stays in the US. And I was in a program called Teach for America. So that program specifically recruits a lot of usually, young college students who recently graduated and puts them into teaching positions, like teaching in K-12 public schools, where they really need teachers. And these are generally kind of underserved communities, very high poverty rate. And they're usually very rural or very urban. And I got placed in very rural North Carolina.
Okay.
And it was a trial by fire. So I took summer classes. That was my first introduction to kind of like formal education, research, instructional design, classroom management, all of that was the first time I was really introduced to it. The summer between after I graduated and my first real job teaching. I taught summer school, and then I spent 3 years teaching sixth grade math and science. So that was my introduction to education.
Okay.
And
what was your first instructional design gig? Like that is something that looks similar to the work you do today.
Well, I wouldn't say it looks similar, but the principles are there, right? Like when you're teaching sixth graders, it's still very much, I was teaching math, for example, right? And teaching maybe like numeric patterns or something like that. And I remember I'd always try to engage with media, like because the kids are very interested in cartoons, the TVs, the computers. And at that time, so this was about early 2000s, it wasn't, every student didn't have a laptop, right? Every classroom didn't have a smart board. I remember I still had to go rent from the media center like a TV that I could bring into my classroom so I could use kind of like web videos and things like that. So like there was, I think they're still out there, but there was a great um, kind of animation studio called Brain Pop, and they introduced like math or science concepts with like fun little ways. And I like to start a lesson like that. So just like we design courses, like you try to have a hook at the beginning of your e-learning course to engage the audience and get them interested. I kind of learned to do that in the classroom. Like that's where I first started doing that is I'd start with, we're going to talk about improper fractions today, right? And they have a video with this cool, funny little robot. It's an animated thing about improper fractions, and that kind of just sets it up. And it gets their interest, it gets their eyes,
Mhm.
introduces the concept, and then kind of I would follow it with more kind of formal instruction. Um, and
Matt,
that's still a model that I think works, even
yeah,
though,
yeah,
you know,
recognizing that, whether you're teaching a live class or you're uh, putting it into a digital medium, the principles are still there. So, what is for people that are watching this? What is instructional design? Let's just lay that out in simple terms. Like you have a, I thought you did a really nice video out at our instructional design page at our website, and it does a nice job of that. So if you could just sort of reiterate that particular little presentation, would be helpful for those people that have heard about it, but they really need to know exactly what's going on, because I've always thought that instructional design seems to be the unsung hero. Arguably, it's the most important thing to create a great course, but it oddly is the thing that people know the least about. So, what is instructional design in the context of the work that we do today, Matt?
mhm. So I'd say, I mean, instructional design, it's all about creating experiences that are achieving some kind of learning outcome, right? So
Okay.
like we use the model ADDIE. So you analyze, design, develop, implement, evaluate. A big part of instructional design is that A, the analyze, figuring out. A lot of times you have learners, you have students, you have people basically you trying to get information into their head, experiences that they can go through so that they can do something. There's some kind of desired outcome at the end of that learning journey. And that analysis up front is really kind of where you define that. Because I think a lot of people can design, they can build stuff, a lot of people can develop it and then implement it. But if without that analysis, that's where really the kind of that's the critical piece. And that's what makes instructional design more than just building content. It makes it more of the science behind,
Mhm.
actually changing behaviors, actually accomplishing things over the long
So
term.
on A for Addy, so what would you do to, so what are some of the, dive into that a little bit deep. So analyze what? So if you're working with a CourseCREEK client, and I get what you're saying, it needs to be purposeful. It needs to have a meaningful transformation. It has to be more than just here's what it is, but more here's, how you do it, and go a little bit deeper. So what would you do what would you do with a client to kind of dig in and get them to get you that information if you're needing
You,
to
you
pull
ask
that
a lot
out?
of questions, a lot of why questions, like why are we doing this? Like what are you trying to achieve? Like why is the person taking this course? What are they trying to get out of it? So really kind of understanding what this journey is and where you're trying to get to, and being able to clearly articulate it. Like it can't be so broad and general that it's not like definable. Because what we want to be able to do is define specific outcomes. Like what are they going to be able to do differently after they finish this course?
Perfect.
And the list can't be so long that it would take a 4-year degree program to accomplish that. I mean, realistically, you got maybe a few hours at the most. to kind of accomplish it. So what can you do? What practical, tangible thing can they walk away with?
Right. Yeah, cool. So what is it? Perfect. And then so as a director of instructional design at CourseCREEK, putting you on the spot here, what do you enjoy the most about it? I mean, is there something, and what is it about our clients or anything that seems fun? I mean, you've been hanging with me for 4 years now. I'm assuming it's not just my charm,
And then you
or,
might be surprised. No.
or me teasing you about your cool Bono shades from time to time. But I like to think there's a little bit more to it than that.
No, it's like the reason I've done this for 20 years is because I like being able to help people, right? I mean, whatever you do, whatever profession you're in, it's not specific to instructional design. You just want to find something that you can do well, where you can add value, and then that you can help people, you know. And then if you can make if if you can feed yourself and your family at the end of the day after doing that, I mean, that's a good day. So so for me, it's something that I've found going back to kind of the earlier discussion about, how I got into this. It's something specifically the combining education and technology is a niche that I really kind of fell in love with, and I enjoy doing it, and I can make a living doing it, so I continue to do it.
Yeah. Cool.
So that intersection of kind of education and technology, especially kind of like what we're talking about today with AI and everything that's
Yeah.
happening, it's constantly changing. Technology is.
Yep.
So the past 20 years, it's very different, than it was 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
it keeps you on your toes. It's always interesting, and that's why I do it.
You show your toes. You're showing your toes. You do anything. You do anything to get a job done. You show people your toes. All right. So I like to tease Matt from time to time this one. So by the way, where are the cool Bono shades? I was
They're on my mess of a desk somewhere.
kind of hoping you would wear them for this. If you got them handy, let people see.
Here, I'll show people.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
There
totally.
you go.
Let's do that. Yes. Yes. Let's do that.
They're amber shades. That's just because I'm staring at
No,
two
it's fine.
giant screens all day. It's just for eye strain.
Oh
So
no,
it's
come on. It's a standing joke with me and Matt. I like to tease him a lot. All right, let's get right to it. All right, technology. That's a good segue. So artificial intelligence. All right, what is, because you and I had some sideline conversations about this. Let's do this, man. I think a lot of people will be interested in hearing about this. What is the future of instructional design? I mean, if there ever was a practice and a profession that could benefit from AI, like one of the first things you run to is probably instructional design. I would think it's so obvious. So what is the future of instructional design, and where's it headed with AI? And
I
we'll
mean,
dive into
so
that a little bit more details.
yeah, like AI, especially like the generative AI that we're seeing out of ChatGPT and things like that. I mean, it's going to disrupt everything. I don't think instructional design, e-learning, I mean, it's not alone in um, trying to figure out kind of what the future looks like, how it's going to be used, and then how it's going to change things, how it's going to disrupt things. Like the way I look at it,
Yeah.
specifically to instructional design, just because that's kind of my area of expertise, but I think the principle applies across industry, is in the near term, kind of the low-hanging fruit, how does AI kind of augment your current practices and processes, right? So like I mentioned ADDIE, for example, like how does it make going through the analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation faster, better? You're still doing the same things, but the tool is like jump starting you, right? Like I've seen like a lot of LMSs like LearnWorlds are kind of incorporating the early design framework of assessments and content outlines with this kind of AI tools that make it much faster. So what would have taken you maybe 8 hours before, you can do in 1 hour.
Yeah.
Right. So it's accelerating it. But so that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. That's like where we are now. That's doing the same process. It's still doing ADDIE. It's just doing it faster, better, easier.
But what would, so for example, what? For example, you you can imagine that you'd be able to go to an AI interface and ask it to do what, and it would do what for you? What do you see coming?
Well, that's the question, right? And I don't know that I've seen a good answer. So I think that's what a lot of people are figuring out. Because what if instead of having to go through ADDIE, you could skip the analysis, right? Instead of having to say, okay, people at my company aren't filling out this form well, right? Maybe there's an education issue. Maybe they don't know how to fill it out, right? So you do the analysis. Okay, do they know how to fill it out? No, they don't. Here's where they're struggling. Okay, so we need to design something that addresses that gap, right? That's how you traditionally do it. But what if kind of the machine in the background identifies that gap before the humans even realize it, right? It can see it coming. Oh, these reports are becoming, we see that trend, they're coming in late, or there's a lot of errors. Let's fix it. And then it changes the form even before you need to train it, or it creates the training or job aid before you even realize you need one, right? Like, can it anticipate,
Yeah.
analyze and anticipate before we could even get to it, right? So will it change ADDIE? Like maybe we don't need it anymore. Or maybe it'll be shorter, right? I don't know.
Uh-huh. And you and I, we see, you mentioned it, that the technology that we work, the tech stack that we're helping with our clients is, credit to those guys, are very, quick to move. And for example, it's no secrets here. We're very much a LearnWorlds shop. They don't pay me to say that. It's just the best platform. One of the reasons why, I could go off on that, but one of the reasons why it's the best LMS for a certain market, for sort of like that medium-sized company, is because it's SCORM compliant, and it's also designs well. And they just launched AI. They have a whole bunch of new AI features, which is sort of version one of this new journey of where it's going to take us. What do you see in regards to LearnWorlds and their AI efforts that you think are pretty cool?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool when you see these platforms start to integrate the tools right there. Like we've always kind of known, um, you kind of can see them separate, right? And then we're starting to see that integration now of like things like ChatGPT type, you know, a generative text box with the platform itself. So LearnWorlds is one of the first to do that. So like you could log into your LearnWorlds account now and it could help you write an entire course, right? You could upload a bunch of content and say, hey, give me a 10 question quiz, right? On this kind of stuff. Now, the important thing is, I think, with all of these things is remembering this is not replacing kind of ID expertise because you still have to read all of that. It's
Uh-huh.
you rarely would I ever use it 100% as is, right?
Hmm.
Because you still have to tweak it and review it. But it's still going to save you a lot of time. That's the big thing. It's you're going to get to that review stage much faster than you would through traditional kind of just handwriting everything.
Yeah, it's really a beast of burden. AI is. It does a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, and that's where we are now. But I think long term, like it needs to be more than that, right? It's like when we were first learning how to use like computers, right? It was just a faster typewriter, initially. And then the internet came along, right? And completely changed the computer is so much more now, right? So I think the AI is going to be just as, if not more disruptive than the internet. If you can think about how you used to work, if you're old enough to remember how you used to work before Google, before the internet, and think about how you do it now, I mean, it's completely different. I think AI is one of those technologies. It's going to be a paradigm shift in how we work.
Well, I totally agree. We get a bit philosophical here, but I don't think people really see this or feel it until they actually just start playing with it. You got to chat GPT and it's super simple, by the way. You just give it a prompt, just give it a command, tell it to do anything, anything. It's C3PO. And short of Star Trek manufacturing an actual tangible object in front of you, it's not doing that yet. But as far as data and copy and stuff, it's mind-blowing what it can do. It is, I think it's as profound as potentially as profound as the wheel, maybe the discovery of fire. It's up there, maybe not that big, but real close. Electricity, it's up there. It is transformational in the path of human evolution. There's just no doubt about it. And anyways, so you just said it can do more. This is the first steps, what we see in these platforms like with LearnWorlds, but in the future it will do more. What more will it do, Matt? Predict.
That remains to be decided. I mean, there's a whole ethical dilemma to this too that I don't
What
know if
would
we
you
want to get
like
into.
it to do as an instructional designer? What would you like to see it do?
So what I would like to see is like real-time content authoring, like in a reliable way. So right now it's not like the models aren't proven enough that I trust it to produce real-time content to the learner. So right now you could create a learning experience where it's kind of adapting to the information it's receiving. Like maybe the student isn't quite grasping the content. It can identify that and provide feedback to kind of remediate, right? To address any deficiencies and kind of based on the assessments and things like that.
Cool.
But I don't trust it yet. And maybe that's just me. Maybe there are better models, better ways to kind of tune the AI to have more reliable feedback. But from my perspective, it's not proven enough to do that on a large scale, other than just like R&D or for topics that aren't critical, from a training perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like,
it does. It sounds like what you're saying is it can on the fly be able to analyze the exchange that's having in real time with any particular learner and be able to quickly make a decision on how to ask the question in another way for Bubba. And then for Myrtle, it might be struggling on the same question, but the reiteration, the way of rephrasing the question that worked for Bubba isn't going to be the way you would want to do it for Myrtle, because Myrtle has demonstrated a different kind of pattern in.
right. Well, whenever you design a training experience, regardless of its academic, or enterprise, learning and development, people walk into that experience with different backgrounds, right?
Yeah,
With different
right.
levels of knowledge, with different experiences, with different expectations sometimes. So they're starting from different places. So from an instructional perspective, it's always a challenge to figure out where to start, right? So if it could get to the point where the AI can reliably and consistently kind of analyze where that starting place should be. And then not just with text, but with images, audio, video, and kind of interactive experiences,
Yeah,
generate kind of what that course should look like for that individual.
right. There you go. So AI says, okay, so the best way to get this point across to Bubba is to do a drag and drop interface and match the boxes and something like that on Articulate. the best way to teach this concept with Myrtle, who's also struggling with it, would be to maybe tell a story about what happens when you're playing a game of bridge as a metaphor, perhaps, or something of that nature, and then pull a lesson from that.
And that's kind of the how. There's also the what. That's how you're teaching it. There's also the what needs to be taught, because in your example, Myrtle might not have as much experience as the other person, so she needs a little bit more introductory guidance before she can get to the core lessons, right?
Are you stereotyping Myrtle? Is this?
I don't know any Myrtles.
So why are you picking on Myrtle? Oh.
No, we care about Myrtle. That's why we're giving her the support.
We've had a Myrtle. We've had a Myrtle.
Succeed.
Yeah, yeah. No, we do care. We do care. No, that's very cool. That's very interesting. Okay. All right. So Matt, let's have a little fun here. Would you be kind enough to share with viewers your hero story, your rising from the Phoenix story? I think everybody who's done enough orbits has got one to tell. Something where you were down in the dumps, or living on the streets, or what have you, whatever that story was, and then you somehow pulled it through, and now you're a successful world-class instructional designer at CourseCREEK. And
Yeah, I mean, that's easy.
yeah.
So that's the rest of my story, I guess, the rest of my kind of career path. So I started, like I said, teaching, and then my first real corporate job after teaching in the public schools was I worked for Lowe's, the home improvement retailer, the big box retailer,
Yeah.
building online courses. Like that's really where I got my start in e-learning, in learning kind of adult theories of learning. And I did that for 7 or 8 years, kind of worked my way up, ended up kind of running the department that was responsible for all the online training that was going out to 200,000 plus
Wow.
employees. So that was really like the cornerstone of my professional career, and forever would be grateful for them. But how I left was not the most gracious. My position was eliminated. So I walked in one day, and then suddenly I didn't have a job the next, right? So I had a young family at the time, it's completely turns your world upside down, right? If anybody's been through a layoff like that. And like it was scary, but thankfully I had developed kind of the skills and network from my time there that I was able to land on my feet. Got started working with some great guys pretty much the day after that happened, and did that for a little while, and then ended up starting my own business, doing something very similar. And that's how I met Robert and CourseCREEK. And so it was a very difficult experience going through that, but I am actually now very grateful it did, because it's one of those experiences where like I needed to go through that when I look back, because it was real growing experience, because so much of my identity, and this is going to get a little philosophical, I guess, but
it's fine.
So much of my identity was based on my job. And then my job was being given to me by this corporate entity, right? So much of me really wasn't me. You know what I mean? It was my identity was being given to me by this corporate overlord, basically, that didn't care anything about me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it was, and then comparing that to like working with other great people now, like I can choose who I work with, which is completely different, in terms of, working more for yourself. And it's an entirely different way you kind of look at life, honestly. And it's looking back, completely grateful it happened. I'm glad it happened. And no doubt my life is, and my career is much better because it did.
It's true what they say that the hard times, if you can get through them, if you can hunker down, toughen up, and get through them, on the other side, eventually, if you never give up, you'll typically recover, and you're just a better, smarter, more experienced, brighter person for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that this is that the work that you and I do and our clients, a lot of our clients go through an experience like that they're in the middle of this point in their lives where that I was at too, which was how much longer can I do one-on-ones? How much longer can I just sell only sell my time? Uh, and oftentimes we hear, I've been working for the man. I've been working for corporate for a long time, and I want to do my own thing. I have my own ideas. I have my own IP. I've developed some stuff on the side. I want to turn my side hustle into a full-time deal. It's time for me to turn in my corporate spurs and make a name for myself, become a thought leader, become an author. And I think that's the same experience that a lot of our clients would go through, wouldn't you say? At least the solopreneur types, the coaches.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I have a unique experience at all. I mean, there's just truth, I think, in that, being able to, like you kind of said, just push through challenges to find, what's on the other side. Because whether it's professionally, whether it's with relationships, whether it's financially, I mean, everybody goes through different challenges. So it's just a matter of, not giving up.
Yeah. Yeah. How is working with the solopreneur coach types that we've done some work with different than working with, say, an L&D department at an enterprise, which we also have done some work with? That's what might be interesting to hear from you on.
So that's a good question. I think one of the big differences goes back to the outcomes. Really, what are you trying to achieve, right? Because like the entrepreneurs that we work with a lot, like you said, the coaches, they're a lot of times trying to make money. Like that, ultimately, that's their goal, right? They're trying to monetize their expertise in some way. Now they do that by, providing valuable instruction, experiences, guidance to people. And that value is translated into dollars and cents. Corporate L&D doesn't always have such a clear line of sight to that bottom dollar, I would say. Well, that you can argue that maybe they should. It's oftentimes more focused on like knowledge and behaviors, right? So like, how are we going to accomplish X or Y? And then from a more kind of tactical perspective, a lot of corporate clients already have more of an established ecosystem to deliver and take training.
Yeah.
And your audience is kind of baked in. Like you don't have to worry about who's going to take it. You're going to tell people, that they are going to take it, basically. Versus kind of the solopreneurs that you're talking about. Really,
Need
they're trying to
marketing.
sell their product.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you seeing L&D departments hip to the AI? Are they coming on board? Are they asking for it?
Oh yeah, I mean everybody's interested in it, or everybody should be interested in it. But yeah, there's definitely people talking, and just a lot of people trying to figure things out. Some challenges that we've seen though more on the corporate side is some of the more larger conservative organizations, um, like some of them still block, like ChatGPT, for example. Like you can't even use it on the internet, right? Um,
What is that? What does that mean? Block.
You can't go to the website. So if you were to try to engage with the
Oh,
OpenAI API or with like ChatGPT directly on their website, you wouldn't be able to. From
okay.
within their firewall, it's blocked.
Yeah. Okay.
So things like that. So not all organizations are like jumping on the bandwagon because there are, and to be fair, there are some risks associated with it. There's some ethical questions maybe that need to be answered. And we haven't fully figured that out. Like you saw, I mean, I haven't followed it recently, but I saw, a few weeks ago, like the New York Times was suing or going to sue OpenAI over kind of how they train their model on some of their paywalled content. So there's questions like that that need to answer, that need good answers before I think some of the larger corporate entities just jump on the bandwagon because it's potential lawsuits there.
All right. Okay, Matt. Um, one last thing that's sort of fun. Another fun thing. You ready for it? Matt, you ready to have some fun?
Depends on what the fun is. Whose definition of fun are we talking about?
Well, I got you wearing the cool shades. All right. By the way, I'm still looking for an updated team page pic with the shades. I'm gonna get you the shades. Come on. All right. So, Matt, look to the camera and in 30 seconds, give some wisdom, some advice that you would impart upon learners, perhaps, people that are interested in online courses, maybe something about AI. Wouldn't have to be, could just be life advice, could be anything, but whatever it is, make it inspiring so that whomever sees it, that a lot of people that see this, they'll never forget. Ready? Go.
So with AI, technology, any of that, I think the biggest thing is, we can't be intimidated or scared by it. I think a lot of people can be intimidated by like new technology that comes up around. And the biggest thing is with anything new, you're going to fail. There's going to be lessons learned. But the biggest thing is, learn those lessons, apply them, and then keep moving on. Like, so the same thing happened, when mobile was a big thing. We were all trying to figure out, okay, how does the mobile device, how is that going to change how we live, work, and learn? And some solutions came out that failed, some practices started that we stopped doing because we found out they didn't work. But there are a few things that stuck around, right? So that's what we're all trying to figure out with AI is like, how is it going to change? How is it going to change how we kind of live, work, and learn? And then how's that going to change our jobs? And I think the biggest thing is um, not to be intimidated or threatened by it, but to kind of embrace it and then learn from it. And we'll probably fail at a few things. It won't quite work out the way we want to, but we got to keep trying to figure it out.
One thing's for sure, it isn't going away.
Yeah.
Anybody that tries it, you'll realize that. Matt, that's our little show. Thank you for being a professional and a member of our team at CourseCREEK for so many years, and a friend. I think at this point, I think I'd like to call you a friend. Yeah, so just a moment to share some appreciation on that. And I remember a couple phone calls I had with you about 3 years ago where you were teaching me about how to price out articulate and how it's all done and that it's based on time. And I was like, well, what does that mean based on time? That's it. So anyways, Matt's a great teacher. He's world class. He's taught me a lot about instructional design. So he's been my teacher as well. So anyways, thanks for that, Matt.
It's been my pleasure.
All right. With that, folks, we're done with our show. Hopefully that's helpful for you. If you're interested in meeting Matt and learning a little bit about our instructional design and development department, what we can do for you, and artificial intelligence, click the link somewhere around here. It's on it's on the description wherever you're seeing this video. Go out to our website. We have a couple different forms and things you can fill out. And we'll be in touch, and we're more than happy to help you. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
No, let me turn off the YouTube. YouTubers, you guys get a little bit behind the scenes here. Let me turn you guys off. All right, YouTubers are gone, more or less. Matt and Loom is off, and we are still recording on Zoom, which is good. I'm going to turn that off. Stop the recording. And stop YouTube.